The way that the course was set up was that you actually, whether you did the 24K or the 11K, you actually hit the Go John Aid with 3 miles to go, but you can see the finish line from there. The number of people who decided to call it a day at Go John and elected to take a DNF because they didn't want to go up and over the mountain because it was so hot.
Yep.
It was kind of staggering.
Yep. That was my computer all day. It was buzzing like, this one's dropping, doesn't need a ride, doesn't need a ride. This one's dropping, this one's dropping. I'm just like, wow, yeah, no one wants to do that last 3 mile loop.
Yeah, thankfully, we're not going to have to worry about that this weekend, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. But, I just wanted to touch base with you and see how it went, and were there any surprises that you encountered along the way that day?
The drops there, just constantly getting more ice. That was on my side of things. Like, during race day scenarios, like, I don't have a ton of time to, like, pay attention to the places and stuff. It's mostly just putting out fires. But everyone I talked to seemed pretty happy, but we were just trying to keep everyone cool out there.
It was the kickoff race for the Sonoran Desert Cup, and I know, Chris, you were out there and interviewed some of the top finishers. Was there? I mean, that was fun. That was kind of a new twist on it as we're doing this now 8 race series.
For sure.
Was there like a little different? I mean, you've done these for a long time, but was there a little different vibe with the Sonoran Desert Cup kind of added to the mix this year?
I think so, and I think that's a great distance to race. So just following along and announcing to the audience and the spectators there, giving them updates along the way, because the 24K for the Sonoran Cup was point to point, so you couldn't see anything that was happening, but we'd get checkpoints and we'd know that Julian was this much ahead and then this much ahead and what's going to happen these last 3 miles and stuff. And it was a big deal. It was
cool. I think that's a cool thing about the Cup in general is that, this is about this sub-ultra distance. All of the races are within 24K and 30. I think there might be one that's 40K.
Yeah.
But, they're all sub-ultra distance, a distance that is a good entry level for folks into the sport, but is also a good distance where you can, someone like Julian or Cody or some of the other folks, you can hammer it and recover in a couple of days and be back to training.
It feels like a race. I mean, I love the long stuff, but this feels a little bit more competitive than a 50 miler or a 100 miler.
And they're really one of the things about this Cave Creek was that both at the top of the men's and women's race between 1 and 2, there was not a lot of separation to the very end. I mean, we saw both men hit Go John Aid within like 3 minutes of one another, and the women was about 2 minutes of one another. So they could literally, the way that it works for people who aren't familiar, you go from the Go John Aid up a switchback laid in, 600-foot climb, and you can see people like in front of you. You can see who your target. And, in one case, I know that in the men's case, Cody was like doing his best, as best he could to catch Julian, but in the women's race, Devin looked up and saw Megan basically just not relenting, and so she's like, well, I think the second is going to be okay. At least that's what I got. But I mean, the first 2 men and the first 2 women in that race finished very closely together, and I think we'll probably see that again this time around. Yeah,
if not more. I think I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think this course leads to that.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. Pass Mountain. We're focusing on the 25K. Of course, you've got a lot more on your hands, a 50 miler, 50K, the 25K, which we're highlighting, the 10K and the 5K. I'm struck, Aaron, 169 entrants on Saturday.
Massive.
Yeah. For a local race, 169 entrants from 17 states, D.C., and 2 Canadian provinces. Mm-hmm. That's a very large field.
On a random Saturday in November.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to be very proud of the effort that your team has put together in terms of making this race an appealing destination.
Yeah. No, I feel like we're doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. Bryce, are we able to pull up the graphic really quick on the iPad just to show the standings for the moment in the Sonoran Desert Cup? Thank you. So, Aaron, you want to walk us through how the points break down for this?
Yeah, we're doing place-based points, so it doesn't matter your time. It's all about the racing. So if you can pass someone with 100 yards to go, it's worth it. You get some extra points for that. But we
kind of has that cross-country feel,
right? Yeah, exactly. And we're giving points to the top 20. So even if you get 20th place, you still get 1 point. And the scoring starts at 25 and goes down from there. It's 2-point gaps until 5th place, and then once you start at 6, it's 1-point gaps. So if you get down to 20th, 1 point. If you're 19th, you get 2 points. But then on the flip side, the leader, like Julian, has 25, and after that 23 to 21.
So I actually didn't realize that it goes down to 20 spots in terms of point accumulation. That actually changes things because, like as we mentioned, the top 10 on each side are going to be into the series final, or at least counted for the championship race. So that means that people who are a little bit further down are going to be able to accumulate and potentially pass those who basically have one big or two big performances.
Yep, and also if you have a bad race, that's kind of where it came into. So we were thinking about, do we give points to the top 10, top 15, top 20? But we kind of figured, someone could theoretically get 11th and just have a bad day, and then maybe they win or get second, but they should get points for that.
Right on.
You want to we can just jump into the women's field?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so this is one that kind of raised our eyebrows significantly here.
Yeah.
Of course, we do have the winner from the Cave Creek Thriller, Megan Kupris, returning, but I did talk to her a few days ago via text, and when I mentioned, have you looked at the field yet for the Pass Mountain 25K, she said, yeah, I'm going to have to bring it. And let's talk about why she feels she has to bring it there. AJW.
Well, Elsa McDonald is in the field. Elsa's from Canada, but spends time here in the wintertime. We know that. She's been here quite a bit. And, you take a look at Elsa's resume in trail and ultra running, and it's impressive. A second place at Western States, a couple of top 10s at UTMB. But she's come down here and run, first place at the McDowell Mountain Frenzy 25K back in 21, Whiskey Basin, a damn good run, which will be the finale of our series. So she knows these are Elephant Mountain just earlier in 2024, as well as Mesquite. So Elsa McDonald, while she may or may not end up being in this series, just her presence in the race is going to get some attention.
Absolutely.
Well, so fun fact, if you look, Elsa McDonald is the last person to beat Courtney DeWalter in a race that Courtney finished that she was actually racing. Right, and that was in 2018. And that was here at Black Canyon.
Okay.
So, that tells you what kind of cachet Elsa McDonald has if you're not familiar with her. Obviously, like you mentioned, podium finish at Western States. But, races here in Arizona far more than I realized when I went back and looked through her recent trail running resume. But, of course, Megan is no slouch either. Megan has acquitted herself as a member of the Aravaipa racing team, and also holds multiple course records in distances and disciplines around the valley. And I knowing Megan, I know that she gets super excited and super amped up, and I truly believe that she is going to do everything she can to try and, quote, defend her house in this regard. Yeah. Another member of the field would be Brittany Lump. Brittany finished third at Cave Creek Thriller 24K. Spoke to her. She was a little bit surprised that she came in third. At least that was what I gathered when I spoke to her. But she did very well. This will not be her first time here at Pass Mountain. She actually finished here second last year. So it was a little bit of a softer field. Her time was nowhere near the top of the historical records. But again, as you mentioned, the times are secondary to the placements here at this race.
It looks like Brittany, too, ran smart in the Cave Creek Thriller and is probably planning on, she's already in for McDowell Mountain Frenzy, so she might just be going to run the table on all these events and see how it plays out.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
it. There's a fair bit about it that's just, show up and run.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good way to look at it, that a lot of these runners who are coming back, and like we said, going to accumulate points through the length of the series. You look at another runner here, Tosca Gabriella Henry, finished seventh at Thriller a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So, accumulated some points as part of the racing series. So, maybe not going to finish, top two or top three, but definitely somebody who might find themselves with an invite to the race at Damn Good Run at the end of the season.
Let's talk about our second place in the standings, Devin Nihill. She's not running the race, but she was a very, very curious entrant when we were doing the preview on Cave Creek. Mm-hmm. And, former lacrosse player from back east. She kind of went out there. You had a great interview with her. She was just
great.
having a blast.
Super friendly.
And I think she's volunteering this
She
go
is
around.
volunteering. I've seen her name out there. I emailed her yesterday. So
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so
we love to see that.
As we joked before we came on the air, it's like, well, we've got him hooked now. So like, you come, because that was Devin's first trail race.
Yeah,
when I spoke with her, I think that she was actually shocked that we knew who she was and that we were keeping an eye on her. Like, I hope she didn't feel like like singled out or anything like that. But I told her, I said, listen, we are doing our best to cover the whole field and get to know some of the runners. And when there's a handful of names who don't have an ultra sign-up score, I will occasionally go and sneak down and and I'll go. Well,
let's face it, you're just gonna stalk them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do the best I can to research them so we can give coverage. Because frankly, I was proud of the fact that we were able to name her in our preview.
Saw that she had this a really fast half
124
marathon time or something.
124 half marathon.
Yeah.
So I think that was definitely worthy of recognition. So, and that's covering the women's field. Now on the men's field, I would say that we are graced with far more familiar faces than in the women's field, and that includes 4 of our top 5 men from Cave Creek Thriller.
Right, so we've got, Julian Kuyu is in the lead, having won Cave Creek. He's back. Cody Goodwin, second place in the standings, and he's back. And as you noted on the Cave Creek race, those guys kind of really battled, and it was
2 minutes apart.
It was just a couple minutes when it was all said and done.
And a wide gap between 2 and 3 at the race last week. And I believe Aravaipa racing team member Devin Sharps placed 3rd, but was about 9 minutes back.
And then Kurt was right behind Devin.
That was fun. I watched that finish, and Kurt was maybe 20 seconds back, and Devin was full send, and Kurt was
they were neck and neck with a couple hundred yards to go.
Yeah,
I heard, so.
and Kurt kind of laid up there, and that was actually a whole lot of fun, because when I talked to Devin afterwards, he said, it was like coming over that last ridge with a half mile to go. He wasn't sure, and so he gave it all he had. You wonder if we're going to have another Devin Sharps drop-in on Saturday, potentially.
Yeah, he always does that. It makes our life super fun. It's always race day sign-up.
Race day sign-up for him?
Well, I mean, I would love to see him out there. Devin's an excellent athlete, but he isn't as of now in the race configuration. Actually, Aaron, as a race director, can you talk about that really quick before we delve deeper into the men's field? You're probably privy to some insane drop-ins on the last minute. I know for a fact at Pass Mountain. I mean, I remember one year Chris Mako showed up in the morning to run the 50K. But can you talk about some of the more interesting drop-ins that you might have had at some of these races?
Mostly it's Nick Curry. Every long race, he won't be on the start list. He'll just show up 10 minutes before and get a bib and usually win. But no, we've had Jeff Browning's dropped in a few times, a couple races, so it's fun to see the big names come last second. So.
Absolutely. No, that's really cool.
On that topic, I know we might chat a little bit about the other distances, but Caleb Schiff, if anybody knows who Caleb is, he's the owner and purveyor of Pizzicletta up in Flagstaff.
A must when you go up there.
A must place to go, and a solid runner, and he's on the top of the list for the 50K, so it'll be fun to see Caleb. Great chef, great food guy, and also quite a good runner. I digress to the 50K. But
Caleb had a heartbreaker last year in the 50 mile. He was passed with a quarter mile to go for the
lead.
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
Sheldon passed him within sight of the finish line after Caleb led basically all day.
Oh, wow. That's brutal.
Dan Roeder, who is 5th in our standings, sitting with 17 points. He is back and looked strong at Cave Creek, and is probably going to hold his position. I know he was several minutes back of the lead pack there, but it's a long game.
Yeah, Dan Roeder finished 5th at Cave Creek a couple weeks ago, and this race has had some pretty solid success. Finished 6th here in 2023 and 9th in 2021. So
super consistent.
Yeah, consistent and familiar with these trails. And we'll actually, one of the things we normally do before our preview is talk about the trail.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're doing that in reverse this time. But I want to mention too, because we both did the Mogollon 42K this year on the new and improved, I don't know if I'd call it that, brutal course, but Dan Roeder got a top 10 there, and he
finished in half the time I did.
Yeah, indeed. He was home, showered, and watching football by the time we finished. Flagstaff, Big Pine, that great race in June as well. So he's got a lot of experience. It'll be fun to see him out there.
Yeah, of course, you mentioned Julian Kuyu, Cody Goodwin, Dan Roeder, and Kurt Houghton, who who was on the receiving end of a tenacious, hard-fought battle between himself and Devin Sharps at the Cave Creek Thriller 25K.
A close
24K.
fourth. It doesn't get much worse than that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that their final finish time was 20 seconds apart, and to be honest, having witnessed it, that didn't tell the tale because, like I said before, Devin was completely full send, and Kurt was kind of just like, all right, well, maybe next time.
Yep.
So,
you got it, Chris. You're so good, man. 2:07:59 for Devin, 2:08:19 for Kurt.
Yeah, and like I said, it felt a lot closer than that.
Yeah,
so, another name that is entered in this race, and this is one that I discovered in my research because that's
what you do.
So, is Andy Parisi from Quebec. So Andy, I know nothing about Andy other than the fact that he actually popped up on FKT, fastestknowntime.com, with a fastest known time for a self-supported run in Quebec, out in maybe about 150 miles north of Quebec City. I don't know how under duress that FKT is or how challenged it is. But anytime you have a number on fastestknowntime.com, I'm going to perk my ears up.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see him because coming to the desert, one of the things that we always pride ourselves on is being ready for the elements, maybe more so than those who come here. But it's going to be 74 and sunny and gorgeous. So,
and most of these 25K runners, they'll be done when it's probably not even in the 70 yet.
Yeah,
it'll
be. I think it's going to be a very nice day for those involved.
You won't have to haul nearly as much ice as you did at Cave Creek.
Be out there, but
another name I want to bring up. It's a local guy. He's not going to win this race, and probably not even top 5, top 6. But John Cruel. John has been a part of the Aravaipa running scene for as long as I've been, if not longer, so 10 plus years. And John has raced this event 7 times.
7 times, yeah.
And so he's going for finish number 8, and he always finishes in the 10 to 20 range. So with that in mind, he actually is going to snag some points. I know that it seems like he runs Boston every year. He's a very talented runner.
He'll know the trails.
And he loves those 15 to 20K distances. So I think that John will have himself a nice day out there.
Also, it's good to shout out. I mean, while our focus is on the Sonoran Desert Cup, our good friend Andre Lee is in the field, bouncing back from his run at Javelina.
Oh yeah, nice little shakeout run.
Tim Hackett will be here, running again. So it's nice to see a lot of the regulars, coming out for the series as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I do love about our Aravaipa races is that I think that things are done to engender loyalty. And talking about John Cruel, I actually didn't realize he's not the one with the most finishes of this race. I guess James Reed out of Mesa has 8 finishes in this race.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Barth Zerbuckin out of Verona, Wisconsin. I'm going to guess a snowbird.
I'm going to guess that
based
too.
on age and number of finishes, 6 finishes.
Nice.
And Mark Salem, another from Paradise Valley with 5 finishes. So you've got those, Mark Swanson, Rich McKnight, Diana Segrist with 3 finishes apiece. So, and I know Rich and Diana, and I could see them, sliding into the top 20 or even top 10 if they have a good day out there.
I'm intrigued by this gentleman, Adam Schaefer from South Dakota. Has been out here before, got a 5th place at Mesquite Canyon in 2023, has run out at Black Hills, one of the classics. He did a 23-hour in the 100-miler there in 2019. Has done a lot of running out there in the Black Hills area, and is out here to throw down. 44 years old, again, probably not in it to win, but it's fun to see a South Dakotan out here, and maybe a snowbird, maybe someone who's just making it into a little bit of a getaway.
Yeah. Of course, another familiar face that we'll see out there is Joe Boucher.
Of course.
So Joe finished, I believe, 6th at the race in Cave Creek last month. Ran Leadville earlier this year. Saw him out there at Having 100 doing on pacing duties. So he got himself a lap out there. I believe he was pacing Ferdinand.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that is correct. Thanks, Bryce. Another name that I found intriguing was Matthew Walker out of Rhode Island. Now, only has 1 result on Ultra Sign Up, I believe, or of note, and that was first at the Point Mugu Half Marathon in Malibu. Now, it's a newer race. However, I was intrigued by that because he he had a significant win on the field. Talking about a 8-minute win in a half marathon, which, for a trail half, that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit. Now, I wasn't familiar with much of the field, but at the same time, sometimes with the local races, it's hard to tell.
And of course, Rhode Island is known as a mountain hotbed of the East Coast.
Well, Malibu has trails that are probably a little bit smoother than what the runners are going to encounter this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's shift over to the course.
Yeah.
You want to do that? So, Aaron, what do we have? And we know last week we did a little analysis. Of course, it was point to point, kind of a fair bit of running in the first half, and then it really kicks you in the teeth in the second half. What are the runners facing in the 25K at Pass Mountain?
It's similar setup. There's like one hill, but I think this is way more of a speed course. It is flat, fast trails. The first 7 or so miles within the regional park, it is like a sidewalk. It's perfect to run on. You can really blitz it, and you got to go across the whole levee. I call it a Bryce Brooks course. He just likes the flat, fast stuff.
Oh yeah, so it's a wussy course,
basically. Even the climb, it's pretty gradual. It's definitely like if you're shooting to win or perform at the 25K, you're running up the climb. It's not like a hiking one. So a little steep at the very last 100 yards, but then once you get to the Pass Mountain saddle, it's just flying downhill.
It
for
is
the rest
great
of the
to
way.
run down from that saddle. I did the race a few years ago, and was my first time actually climbing up Pass Mountain. Now, I will say that the very first part of that climb, like up the backside of Pass Mountain, is extremely technical for this type of course. I mean, there's some points where you've got some ankle breakers and some chunky.
It's pretty chunky for the first part of the climb, and then as you get steeper, it's more like that yellow rock towards the top.
Yeah,
that's the steepest pitch is right at the top there.
And then when you get up to the top, like you said, that's screaming downhill when you when you're coming off the mountain. It is super fast, super smooth. I mean, you're going to see people drop, like at least the front of the pack, like in the men's and the women's side, going sub-7 on that.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Aid stations? What are there for the 25K? Are there 2?
There are 2, Levy and Meridian. They'll hit that at mile 7, so they got like 7 or 8 miles with no aid.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually something that came into play when I ran it last time. Now, I was okay because I was overstocked with what I had, but there were a couple of runners that I passed at the top who would maybe
gone out a little light with the.
Oh yeah, you're talking like a single handheld, and it was hot the year that I did. I want to say it was 2022.
Last year was warm too. It was
and hopefully the runners
actually something that came into
play when I. Hopefully the runners will have an easier go of it this time around without the blazing heat out there. So. Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's figure that out. Of course, you're asking AJW and I to actually do.
Yeah. We've got to say, we want to do a little walkthrough of the course.
So let's see if I can pull that up. Live TV, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. But yeah, so with 169 and likely some race day or race we're recording this on Wednesday, we potentially get up to 175 or so.
And that's pretty close to the point where we do 2 waves, but this park it's the trails are nice and wide for the first few miles, so not going to break it up into 2 waves on this one. Just kind of self-seed.
Well, the thing about the start of this race is the fact that you actually start out in a very wide open area.
Plenty of room.
Yeah, it's also very fast. So those who are really wanting to throw down are going to sort themselves out real quick.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that is nice about this event is that it's not like there's going to be a huge traffic jam, I believe.
And I think you go over a mile before you even get remotely close to what you'd call single track. It's more like the double track type trail.
And then once you do, you're on a fairly narrow single track for a bit, but then all of a sudden you hit the levee and it's wide all over again. So I think I've got it. Oh, that's the 50 miler, but I can switch that to the.
There we go. There you go,
Sonoran
Chris.
Desert
It didn't take long.
All right.
All right. There it is. Pass Mountain 25K. Oh, it looks like a classic loop course.
Yeah. So that 1,336 feet of climb is all in the second half. It is like absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so the first 4 or 5 miles are just completely
Screaming
flat,
fast.
like extremely fast. And then
You got a little bit of a climb going up towards the second aid station, like when you're heading
that's
north
true,
towards
yeah.
Meridian. It's just
It's slight,
it's gradual, but
yeah.
you can, if you're running the first 5 miles quick, you can feel it.
Yeah, definitely. So the start finish line is on the left hand side of the loop, as you can see.
Counterclockwise direction.
Yeah, and that long straightaway stretch is the levee that we talked about. It is literally just a flat, truck wide road, dirt road,
Pancake
basically.
flat.
Yeah, absolutely flat. You step off of the levee to hit the aid station, which is required. I know that's been an issue, like for people that didn't realize it in the past. You actually have to step off the levee to go and cross the timing mat.
Right, even if you don't need aid.
Yeah. So
there will be cones diverting everyone off the
yeah,
levee. So.
Yeah, and then from there they get back on the levee and they actually head back into the 10K course, but then it diverges and goes south, as you can see, and takes them on that longer gradual climbing loop.
Yep.
And then they hit the second aid station.
Meridian aid station is the second aid station.
And then after that, straight away, all hell breaks loose. And
But it does look like there's a fair bit of distance from the second aid station to the finish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's and then if you see that little, after the second aid station, it's straight, but then you actually go over Cat Peaks.
Yes.
So that's
Okay.
a short little bump, but that might be the steepest climb of the whole course.
The Cat Peaks?
Just the very
it's
steepest part. So.
It's very short, but it's over quick.
Yep.
I remember when I was running the Punisher Night Run one year, and I was furiously trying to hold Jeffrey Foote off for third place. When I got to Cat Peaks, I turned my headlamp off because I didn't want him to see me climbing up the hill. And sure enough, afterwards I spoke with him, and he said, "I would have given pursuit if I saw you there." And I said, "You would have caught me."
Nice.
So Cat Peak is a fun little hop over a hill, and then actually coming down the other side, it's nice and fun too.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that elevation profile at the bottom there, you can see right after the aid station, the second aid station, that little boink.
Just the little tiny
that little
thing. Yep.
boink, but it's it'll get you. There we go. Thank you, Bryce. And then you see the climb proper, a little bit more gradual, but
Very backloaded.
yeah. And then that descent. If you've got your quads together and you've bided your time. Now what are is it typical desert sight lines down there? So if it's, let's say, their runners are a couple minutes apart, can they see the guys and gals that they're reeling in, or?
Yeah, the whole first half you can see forever.
Yeah.
The climb, definitely you'll be able to spot people. You can see a ways up to the saddle. The descent is actually a little bit trickier. It's pretty it curves quite a bit, and it's kind of like a roller coaster.
Okay, got it.
And we're doing the
Here we got. Thank you, Bryce.
walkthrough.
We're going to do the walkthrough.
So this is all super fast right here.
Yep.
You're
look
actually,
at
this
that.
is a wash right that you go up. Then
You're
you're back
just
on single track trail
right
here.
out there.
I actually missed the wash turn when I did the 10K loop a few years ago at night.
But all this part is like you're basically sprinting.
Yeah.
And then this is what you guys said is the levee.
The levee.
Yep.
And then that's the little step
It is
off.
great because you're running into the sun, but you can see a flat iron right in front of you the whole time you're on the levee. So that's nice and scenic.
Yeah, even this is still fairly flat.
This gets more, on this part of the course, it's more washy, but it's still a very fast section. And then when you turn north here, every time you're going towards the mountains, you're going uphill. So this is a tiny, tiny climb, but barely
Like a
feel
little
it.
bit of a tilt.
Yep.
And then here's that Cat Peak
And
you
then
were
you
talking
go over
about,
just a
right?
little bump right here. This is really steep, and then
Oh,
it's
nice.
and then nice downhill. And then now here, the course gets more rocky.
This backside was what really kind of...
You're in the Tonto National Forest now and not Usery Mountain Regional Park. Now you start climbing. This part's kind of rocky, but gradual. And then once you get over towards the saddle, it gets steeper.
Oh, look at that.
I wouldn't call it scrambling, but it's slick rock. And then you just bomb the whole
This part is
descent.
pretty amazing.
So not a lot of rocks, but it's kind of like a mountain bike trail, so it's got the curves.
It's got a little
flow
flowy
and stuff with it.
One thing I will say at the very end of this race course, it kind of rejoins some higher trafficked
You go by Wind
trails.
Cave Trailhead.
Yeah, which is a very popular trail here, and you kind of have to make sure that you're not going to railroad somebody
Yeah.
like coming off of that. So just a word of advice to those who are running this race, just be very alert for other foot traffic in the last mile or so.
Yeah, and I think when I ran it, you can see the Wind Cave trailhead, and it's got similar looking ramadas to the start finish. So you think that's the finish line, but you have like a mile to go past that.
Oh yeah, and there's like a bathroom there and everything.
Yeah,
I used it. Like,
I'm done here, but no, you keep going.
Yeah. So. But that's the Pass Mountain course. I think it's going to be, like I said, a great day for these runners with a high in the low 70s, so they won't even see that. They'll be running in the 60s. It'll be sunny, so it'll feel a little bit warmer.
What is the start time for the 25K? I know they're staggered starting at about 7:45-ish or so. So yeah, it's going to be.
He's got to be there at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah, he just shows up and people show up.
Yeah.
7:30 for the 25K
for the 25K.
Aaron, if people are still interested, do we have race day registration available?
Absolutely. The whole Dirt Series will have race day registration.
Awesome.
I get a lot of those emails, so
absolutely.
Come on
great
out.
To hear it.
Sign up on the day of.
Who are your picks? Who you got?
Okay. I'm really excited about the women's race with Elsa showing up. So, but I also know Megan ran with her a bit at Hotfoot Hamster. She's a competitor. And so I think it's going to be between the two of them. It depends. I think a lot of it depend on if Elsa's here to like actually throw down and race, or if it's a nice kind of tempo run for her in the desert. Maybe she's just gotten down here from Canada. So I'm not sure, but I think it'll be between the two of them. It'll be fun to watch. And then on the men's side, I think it's going to be Julian Julian and Cody again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Cody pushes things a little bit to try to, not let Julian run away with it.
I agree. I think that Cody, after Cave Creek Thriller, knows he can hang. So I think that both on the men's and women's side, you're going to see 2 knockdown, drag-out races at the very top. Now, we could be surprised by somebody along the way, but I think that those in the men's side, Julian and Cody, and on the women's side, Megan and Elsa are going to be the people that most are going to be paying attention to and watching out there.
But like I said before, I want to see how Adam from Sioux Falls, South Dakota does, and thanks
Walker.
to your sleuthing, the Canadian FKT guy.
Oh yeah,
will be interesting to see.
Yeah, the Canadian FKT guy once again was Andy Parisi.
That's right.
And then Matthew Walker, the guy who won the half marathon in Malibu as well. So.
I think back to the women. I think Brittany Lump will probably want to keep her spot in the she'll move up a spot since Devin Nihill is not here.
Yeah.
Unless Elsa's deciding to throw into the Desert Cup, which she might, the Sonoran Desert Cup. But I think that I'm guessing that Brittany will want to run a solid race and hold steady, and same with Henri Tosca Gabriella.
One of the things I just realized is that it is full-blown snowbird season here because there are 7 runners from Canada in this race.
Right.
That's a lot. Like if you think about it, a lot of runners from Canada, and they're from all over. They've got a 4 from Alberta, from Cochrane, from Calgary, from Quebec, from Jonquière. So there are people from all over.
Well, judging by the traffic around town, the snowbirds are all here. I can tell. I can tell.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Aaron, about the race?
Race day registration. Come on out. Say hi. I'm happy to see everyone.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we'll be back with a wrap-up show as is customary sometime next week, and we'll be previewing McDowell Mountain Frenzy, which will be here before we know it on Lottery Day in early December, and we're going to live stream that one.
Yeah.
We're going to live stream McDowell Mountain Frenzy as well as a couple of the other ones in the spring series, so we're excited about that. But come on out to Pass Mountain. Race day registration's open. Going to be a beautiful day, and we can't wait to see how it goes down.
I will say that Frenzy, that live stream, is going to be one of the most complicated races to try and keep track of and not get distracted.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But
present company included.
Yeah. So, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
And I guess we'll see you next week after Pass Mountain, and we'll wrap things up here.
See y'all
Mountain
next
Outpost.
week, everybody.